Hi there. My name's Heather, and this is Ankara's Book Club. I wanted to talk to you today about a different book, actually. One that came into my life. I ordered this book because it was recommended by someone I was following, who's in a quite a different paradigm to the work that I do. But I always really like to sample bundles of knowledge from people that are obviously living a very different life. One of the things I've always been very intrigued by is how to build wealth, um, because it's such a paradox to spiritual work. And I know from coaching many people over the years that sometimes the most spiritual path is the path of wealth, because there's so much in wealth that we're afraid of. There's so much that's confronting. There's so much that's this dichotomy of, well, I need it and I want it, but I don't like it. And I blame it for a lot of the world's problems. And I don't want to turn into a different person. And I don't want to be greedy. And it's just easier if I have less. I've heard all of these things so many times. So if there's any books on wealth, I really try to digest them and understand from the perspective of those that have built wealth very quickly, or those that are very successful in a monetary sense, and what is their motivation, like what's going on for them, and is it a purely survival path, or is there something in it around the way that they want to contribute to the world? And I'm interested in the things that they've created. Have they created them just for a sense of power, or is there simply something that they're very good at? And of course, making money is one of the biggest indicators that they're good at it. I'm always so intrigued. So the book was, and I had to actually look up all of these words a lot, the Almanac of Naval Ravikant. It took me a while to even understand the title, but there we go. So Naval Ravikant is someone over in America that has done very well for himself. I think he's, not even past his 40s. And someone has put together like his thoughts and his tweets and everything that he's done and everything that he said. It's really quite intriguing. I have no idea who this person was, and I didn't know anything about him before I read the book. So I kind of liked how fresh I was going in and how it just landed on my doorstep, literally, and I had no background information. I don't really read reviews or anything when I'm looking at books unless I'm looking for a certain subject. I like to just dive in if it feels good. And certainly in the beginning of this book, I was a bit skeptical because the way that it's written is really just a bunch of opinions put together and a bunch of things that are said. And I thought, oh, I'm not sure if I'm going to like this, but he talks about his motivations towards being successful and wealthy. And they are motivated by not having very much in a childhood and not being in a good situation. And he has since invested, developed companies, made an absolute fortune for himself. The interesting parts are he talks about when you make that fortune, it's never what you think it's going to be. And I've heard that quite a few times. I would resonate with that even when I get to milestones in my life. I think it's going to be different than what it is. And it's fascinating to get there and go, this is, yeah, I didn't think it would feel like this. I didn't think it would manifest like this. I didn't think it would have the alchemy that this has. And I think that's the point. We never know what wealth will provide as alchemy for our lives. Are we simply going to go out and provide material comfort only? Are we going to change who we are? Are we going to get into things that don't suit us? All of these fears come up. Are we going to still be generous, or are we going to build higher and higher fences so that no one can get to our, what we see as hard-earned resources? He talks about some foreign concepts to me that I had to get used to. He talks about leverage. What he really talks about that was interesting to me is one note that I'm always really intrigued about is he talks about absolutely thoroughly loving what he does. And he does it 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you can probably read a lot of different successful entrepreneurs' books, and they will say the same. And in no way does that drain him, because he's living exactly the life that he wants, because he's doing exactly what he wants to do. And when you're very good at that as well, and you can build leverage very quickly, he said, once you make the fortune and you realize that you won't be your past ever again, then you make a choice of, well, am I still going to do what I'm doing? And I hear a lot of people judge wealthy people a lot and success, and they take personal punches at people that are doing very well for themselves. And I think judging someone without knowing exactly where they are is always risky. So when I read an account of someone that does exactly what they want to do in this world, and for him that must be gauging the right company to invest in, because now he does a lot of venture capitalist stuff, gauging the best company, and it's almost intuitive. It's almost like they're going to go somewhere, I'm going to do it, and building something up from scratch with a big team and a lot of intensity and a lot of pressure. Once you make that fortune, I'm not sure if many people are actually doing that now to go sit on a beach and drink cocktails. I think when you find what you're really here to do, and we have to be okay with what package that's in. So for his, it comes with making a lot of money, but that's what he loves to do. The money is simply a part of what his skill set is, but then he still chooses to do it. It's not that he's made his fortune and now he can sit back and just do nothing. I find most people that really find what they want to do in this world, no matter how big the fortune gets, they're still going to do it because it's what they love. They don't grind at something they hate so they can switch themselves off from work. They keep going because it's not actually about the money. And he sort of talks about a tipping point, a turning point of when you do get rich and you've had all that success, you realize it's not what you thought and you keep going, and it changes who you are, but in a more self-aware way. He talks about having children and how it can make you far less selfish. He talks about many different intriguing things, and actually owning who you are is a big part of this book. So he really prioritizes what he needs in every moment. And I find that strangely empowering, because before you get the leverage, which means before you know that you're good at something and you have the success to show it, and whether that's reputation, whether that's money, whether that's consistency, whether that's getting to a benchmark that we consider is this might be working here. Before you have that leverage, which means you can just say, I'm going to invest in this company, I'm going to build that team, we're going over here. Before you have that, you're really banking on yourself and hoping that the failures won't be too big. But every successful entrepreneur talks about failures, talks about mistakes, talks about setbacks, but it's part of the pathway. And they keep on getting those setbacks. They are just simply in love with what they do and fueled by it. And wealth is simply a byproduct. But then they have leverage. So why I keep on going back to leverage is there's this beautiful underlying conversation that's starting to happen in my world, which is when you build yourself up to the place of influence, when you have the leverage of a strong opinion or a judgment, which means you make good judgment on the things in your world, which is like people, stocks, investments, businesses, whatever, you can use that leverage to change the world in important ways. So someone like this, who is known to make good calls with high risks, can bank on the parts of his world that he wants to see more of. So this is where he can invest in companies he wants to see could change the world. And it's a bigger version of what I've been talking about for years, which is use your resources to make decisions that change the world. It's as simple as buy organic from the local farm, put your money into that rather than going to the big chain supermarket. Support entrepreneurs, support women in business, support the arts, support healing, support therapy, whatever it is that you believe in, put your money and your time and your energy towards it. Now, it doesn't mean that you need a lot of money, because there's ways that we can support people in this world that don't mean we buy their stuff. But the more leverage you have, the bigger votes you can take, right? So if you don't resonate or agree with what a company is doing, what a government is doing, what a council is doing, what whatever is doing, then you, once you get to this stage, have leverage and a reputation to be seen doing certain things. It's a really interesting idea. Hey, lovelies, if you're resonating with this content, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out, helps out the channel, helps us to make beautiful content for you all. Don't forget to comment down below too if you want to share your experiences, ask us a question, and send in some requests. We'd love to know what you want more videos about. Once again, thank you for watching, and we love you all so much. So when you get to the place of high resources, I think that's the point where you can really make some change. It might be buying a bunch of land and donating it as national park. It might be pulling out of a system that doesn't serve you. And it can be subtle. It can be supporting yourself in every way that that is. It could be supporting alternative medicine rather than Western medicine for prevention. And that does mean going out there on a limb, finding practitioners, educating yourself, finding knowledge about the system that resonates with you and banking on it so that we put our money where our vote is. And he does bring that in his own way, but it inspired me to know that the pathway to success doesn't have to mean that we get to this place and we need to buy a mansion and a Ferrari. This is like this old school. I mean, a lot of people do that. And if that's what you need, great. And I understand if in childhood you didn't have anything, a beautiful house would represent the furthest indication that you're not going to follow any patterns. I get that. And that's important for some people. But what if we banked on ourselves to get to the place where we had leverage to really make some change? And that can be in your own way. What you believe in is something that you can invest in. And then you have the leverage to do so. So it was really interesting read for me. There were some things that I definitely changed in my life. So every successful entrepreneur talks about habits, talks about the things that we do every day. He talks about working out every day. He talks about not surrounding himself with people that he doesn't like the vibe of. He talks about choosing people in his team well. He also talks about all levels of success are about compounding interest. So obviously when we're talking about investments, it's like an investment that you have over 15 years is going to be better than an investment you have over 5. That's pretty obvious. But he talks about people as compounding interest as well. So there's one thing in this book that he says is that he's only interested in investing in people that he believes he's going to spend his whole life with. And if he sees that there's not that level of investment there, then he doesn't bother. And it sort of made me understand that a lot of the big part of our success in this life will be about relationships and who's around us. And I've seen that so many times. because ups and downs, ebbs and flows are going to happen. And it's like, who's been there with you through thick and thin? And also, who will be there? Who's got the loyalty and the investment and the self-responsibility and the capacity to be with you, even when you reach success, even when you have so much in your life, even when you are making those good judgment calls and you are banking on yourself. He really taught me that we need to invest in those relationships because they'll represent our success at the end of the day. And that's really important. So compounding interest is not just about money, it's about relationships, it's about your career and sticking to things. You know, it's a far more masculine approach, but one thing it highlighted as well is the divine masculine asks us to show up to something, sometimes one thing, over and over again. The feminine trait is to try and sample and move around and be creative and go over here and try that, try a hobby. But the divine masculine actually asks us to focus on one thing or focus on the core things and stick with them. So balancing that part of myself is something that these books help me to do. And knowing that a career over a lifetime has compounding interest. And I can't expect to get to a place in the first 10 years when it might be in the 40 or 50 year mark that I actually start to see what that compounding interest has done. And maybe that's the same with relationships. Maybe it takes 5 to 10 years to really understand how to invest in people and the right people. So I found this book hugely influential, actually, by the end of it. I remember that satisfying feeling of closing it up and thinking, yeah, this has really changed my life, this one. I'll read just a tiny little bit, and this is how it's written, and you'll probably understand whether you want to read it just as it's written, but I liked this point. Peace is happiness at rest, and happiness is peace in motion. You can convert peace into happiness anytime you want, but peace is what you want the most of the time. If you're a peaceful person, anything you do will be a happy activity. So there's some parts that really come from wisdom. And he talks about just wanting peace, peace within, peace in the external. And he's willing to prioritize that. Now that for someone that, you know, lives in that world, Silicon Valley, the USA, highly successful, you know, it's nice to see that little inspiring spiritual flavor, even in people that might be worth millions and millions of dollars. That's pretty powerful to me. That's his leverage. This is his leverage, letting people know about that pathway and how they can show up to it, change their habits, vote for the life that they want, vote for the world that they want. And we don't need heaps of money to do that. We can start right away. And it's not perfect. It's really just about sitting down and thinking, what environment do I need? What world am I trying to create? What service do I have? And if I'm not in a huge service mentality at the moment, if I don't have those resources and that capacity, then I can at least vote with my money and my time and my energy. And what do I want to vote for? Do I want to vote for healthier living? Do I want to vote for a more compassionate world? Do I want to vote for my freedom and my independence? Is it convenience that sets me free, or is it connection that sets me free? So how am I going to find those things in my life and vote for them? So, you know, show up to people that are doing well, show up to people that you think have a strong message, that are doing things with integrity, that are running businesses and expressing themselves in ways that are good for the collective. Show up to them. You know, if they're giving and they're giving and they're giving, I can say from personal experience, it's not always easy. You can feel that you're lonely and isolated in that, but we can vote for each other. We can be each other's cheerleaders. We can support services. And if you don't have the money to support everyone beautiful in the world, then find other ways. as little as be their cheerleader online, like and comment on all their posts, write a review, tell your friends about it. Make a decision that one day when you have the resources, it might be when the kids grow up and you got more time and independence. It could be when your business finally kicks off. It could be when you have the lifestyle to think and feel and the space to wonder about these bigger concepts, that you will vote for those people you've been watching. And it happens sometimes. Sometimes we sit in the sidelines waiting for the opportunity to have the leverage to vote for the world that we want, and to collaborate with good people, and to appreciate what we have, and to turn around to the people that've had our back and say, you know what, you really helped me there, and I will never forget that. And if there's anything that you need from me, I'd really like to give back. So I'll leave it there. It was a very interesting book. If you ever stumble across it, grab it. If it's in a secondhand bookshop one day, maybe pick it up. It might be an awesome book to order for a friend or a family member, or to put on your shelf when you need an interesting and encouraging experience to read around wealth and success and business and all those areas that we often ignore or that aren't important because we're too busy creating and playing and being spiritual beings. Anyway, beautifuls, I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you soon.